just send me what's on your mind to do with the big guy in the woods, the big hairy guy named Sasquatch, and we'll get that ball rolling. Be a good time.
They say life is what happens to you on the way that you try to get to where you're going. And in this case, life is a small desk in the basement of your old house and talking into your iPhone with terrible audio quality. It's meeting people along the way that end up becoming a large part of what it is that you're making. So we're going back to episode number 1. And then we're starting all over. See where we've come, where we went through, and maybe some episodes along the way that you didn't catch. So join me as we hear old episodes and meet old friends for the first time. In this week's Bigfoot Society Classic. On this week's classic episode of Bigfoot Society, we get to listen to myself interview myself about Bigfoot while I'm waiting for Uber rides during the rainstorm. And you can hear the windshield wipers going. So it's a fascinating throwback episode. There's some good questions in there, so I got to hand it to myself. They're pretty solid for just starting out. The long road to actual interviews continue, but we got to get through these first episodes to get to the ones where the interview starts. Before we get started, please do something for me that is free. Subscribe to the platform you are listening to this podcast on. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel as well, vice versa. And please share this show and this episode with a friend and your online groups that would love listening to it. All right, let's get on with the show.
Hey, this is Jeremiah coming at you from the Bigfoot Society podcast. I believe we're on episode 4. Counting down the hours until the next episode of Bigfoot and Beyond comes out. I'll be listening to that. I'm sure you will be too. Of course, that's the podcast with Bobo and Cliff from Finding Bigfoot. Shout out to those guys. Hope to get you guys on the Bigfoot Society program eventually. You'll love it. All right. So we're going to start to do something a little different. And what we're going to do is start with the interviews. I know the interviews are finally happening. And I decided, why not start with a person that I know near and dear, myself. That's right. I'm going to be interviewing myself for the first interview. It was a good little exercise. Helped me put together, a list of 10 questions that all my interviews will be comprised of. And then, depending on the person, of course, there'll be specific questions after researching. But want to have a specific 10 questions that everyone's going to be asked. So, at this point, let's launch into the interview. All right, question number 1. I'll be asking myself is introduce yourself and what you do. So my name is Jeremiah. I am the host of the Bigfoot Society podcast, and I run the Instagram at Bigfoot Society. You can check that out. There's a pretty good community over there. They are the best. I also am a software engineer, so I code stuff. Also drive a little bit on the side doing Uber, so that makes for some fun conversations. But this is kind of a fun little side project that I got going on. I've always liked Bigfoot, so figured why not create some content about it rather than just consuming all the time. Next question is, when did you first get into Sasquatch? Now, I have addressed this a few episodes back, but I'll go over it again. As I was a little kid, I don't know, maybe around like 6, 7, somewhere around there, I remember watching In Search Of with my father, and you've got the great 70s music. You've got Leonard Nimoy narrating, and it is fantastic. And I believe there was an episode in that series all about Bigfoot, and they showed the Patterson-Gimlin footage. And I just remember that it blew my mind. I was like, why isn't everyone talking about this? This is phenomenal. There it is. What is that thing? And it just sent me down a spiral of got to find out more about it and got to figure out what really happened. And if you got the bug, you got the bug. If you got Bigfoot fever, you know what I'm talking about. So it all started with watching some videos with Dad on, I believe it was A&E, In Search Of. Good stuff. Next question. Have you ever seen Sasquatch or Bigfoot? And I'll be honest, I have not. This is kind of the first steps of me getting into this. So I've never really gotten the chance to kind of, go out into the woods and specifically like you're looking for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I have done a fair amount of hiking. When I was younger, I used to live on the East Coast and the Northeast. And, sometimes when you're out there, like I've hiked the Appalachian Trail through Connecticut and Massachusetts. And, sometimes when you are out there, you can feel the hairs on the back of your neck kind of stand up a little bit. Usually that's because there's like a mountain lion watching you or something like that. But sometimes you're in those pine forests and it just feels like someone's watching you. But I've not specifically had the honor of actually seeing Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And, right now I'm in the Midwest. We've had about, in central Iowa, I've checked the BFRO website. I want to say we've had like 2 or 3 reports in the area that I am. So not a really hot area, of course, in, central Iowa. But, as the years go on, I might be able to get more in an area where there's more action. And, we'll see what happens. So next question is favorite Sasquatch related legend or lore. Man, there's so many amazing stories. The stories are actually, they're not just from the past, they're being made right now. We might get into that in a little bit, but the favorite story that when I heard about it in the last year or two, the famous Ape Canyon story. And I am actually going to pull up a section from Wikipedia right now and kind of read it to you. So Ape Canyon was reportedly the site of a violent encounter in 1924 between a group of miners, that's guys that are actually out in California, out in Mount St. Helens area. They're actually in a mine. So when they say miners, that's what they mean. So between a group of miners and a group of ape men, or Bigfoot. These allegations are reported in the July 16th, 1924 issue of the Oregonian. Fred Beck, one of the miners, claimed they shot and possibly killed at least one of the creatures, creating an attack on their cabin, during which the creatures bombarded their cabin with rocks and tried to break in. If you do some research on this story, it gets wild. holy mackerel. Like, it's a fantastic story. So take the time, read into the Ape Canyon attack. And I believe, we did go to the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine, a little bit ago. And they actually had part of the exhibit there. They did have some things from Ape Canyon, which was pretty fantastic. I want to say like it was a nail or something that was found around the site. It's pretty cool to have. So do yourself a favor. If you want a good read, that is legit. Look up Ape Canyon. Do some research on that. Good stuff. It's also referenced in Roger Patterson's book, Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? Mr. Patterson's got an interview with Fred Beck in that, or his ideas about that interview. So if you can get your hands on that book, definitely check that out as well. Okay, on to the next question. Favorite movie or show regarding Bigfoot? Now, this is a tricky one. There's a lot of really good ones out there. Some I haven't seen because as they've said on Monsteropolis, great website, there was a whole genre of Bigfoot-themed movies, exploitation films almost, in the 1970s. It's crazy, Boggy Creek, stuff like that. But the one that I really like right now, and I think it's gonna hold up for quite a while too, is On the Trail of Bigfoot. Such a good movie, especially since I've just been doing a lot of research on Area X in Oklahoma. And then to see the guys actually be able to go into Area X and just the interviews they have with the workers that are there, that it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, it's out of this world. It's like the best sci-fi movie documentary, but it's legit. Like, do yourself a favor, get In Search of Bigfoot. I'm pretty sure you can get it on DVD. You can also get it on Amazon Prime. I think this movie's split up into 2 parts. It's like a multi-part documentary series, but it's legit. Seth Breedlove, man, Small Town Monsters really hit it out of the park with that movie. Do yourself a favor, check it out. And my favorite part of that is the part about Area X. On to the next question. Favorite book regarding Bigfoot? Good question that I wrote myself. Good question. Okay, this is kind of a funny one. There's a cryptid book for little kids put out by Scholastic, I believe it is. Or like the I Can Read books that I picked up for my son, little guy, at Goodwill. And I mean, if you want to be able to present Bigfoot and Sasquatch stuff to little kids, I mean, it's legit. But it goes over some really good stuff. And I remember we read it one night and he was like, oh, wow. His eyes got really big. And maybe that's the thing that introduces him to Bigfoot. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll watch, Seth's documentary On the Trail of Bigfoot. Haven't done it yet, but I think maybe in the future we definitely will do that. Next question, favorite Bigfoot related item you own? Right now, so side note, we're trying to pay off debt, so I don't have the money to buy a lot of cool stuff, right? Because we're trying to get the debt out of the way first. So I'm doing Uber, as well. But when I was at the and the family was at the International Cryptozoology Museum in Portland, Maine. I was able to pick up some fantastic backpack patches from, oh man, and I apologize, the name is escaping me. It's like Maiden Company, but if you're into cryptozoology at all, you're saying the name of the company right now, because that those prints, that they have them on t-shirts, they have them on patches, like it's like so cool. So the backpack patches of Bigfoot that I have, probably my top Bigfoot item that I own right now. Good stuff. What do you say to people that don't believe? You're not gonna the way I look at it is you're not gonna force someone to believe in Bigfoot. If they're a skeptic, that's fine, that's cool. But something I do point out is it was not extremely long ago in the scope of history that gorillas were discovered. I want to say it's the late 1800s that they were actually, discovered and brought out and kind of recognized by the scientific community. And if you look at the areas that, Sasquatch and Bigfoot are usually looked for in the Pacific Northwest, stuff can hide in there. And wow, you're driving around. I remember, even in California, I remember a few years back, we're driving around Yosemite National Park, and it was at night. We pulled over on the side of the road, and it was like if we had walked a foot into the woods, you could be gone forever. So dark, so lush. It's just intense. I have no reason to doubt that there's stuff out there that, the scientific community has not found yet. We're finding new species every year in the Amazon rainforest. Why not the Pacific Northwest? Anyways, those are thoughts that I bring up. It's all right to be a believer. It's all right to be a skeptic, There can be discussion. It's good stuff. Next question. What is the most amazing thing that has happened in your life related to yourself believing in Bigfoot? I might take the cop-out answer and say it hasn't happened yet. But I am setting myself up for some really cool stuff to happen. Actually, I have the Instagram account. Check out at Bigfoot Society on Instagram. And I've had some discussions with there's this one person from Florida. And she shared with me an experience, the sighting that they had 30, 40 years ago. And she had never shared that with anyone else. And I mean, that is very special to be involved with something like that, where someone has held on to something that's happened and they feel they trust you enough that here it is. And the detail they put into the story, it's not just something they're making up off the cuff of their wrist. That was pretty cool. I've always wanted to, kind of get into podcasting and interviewing. And I think that this is going to be, an awesome way to do that. So, hopefully in the future, and, I'm going to start reaching out. I'm going to have some amazing interviews, maybe even go to conferences. The sky's the limit, so I'm just kind of building the foundation right now. So the most amazing thing, some pretty amazing things have happened, but I'd say the most amazing things are yet to come. So stay tuned, and you'll find out about that as we go along. What would you say to the next generation coming up who are interested in searching for Bigfoot? I would say don't be afraid to go out there, go in the woods. Now you need to be prepared, right? See if you can go with your parents, make sure you have the right, first aid, and, definitely check with them first. Make sure they give you the okay. I'm not telling you to do it. You want to check with them, right? And, the generation today coming up, they're so involved with tech, so remember, there's a community on Instagram. You can get any information that you need. Don't be afraid to take some time, look through the BFRO website, and you can go through and read stories after stories of testimonials. And above all, don't be afraid to make content. That's the biggest thing, I think, because if you look at the people that are big in the community right now, there's a few, but, the old guys, there's, unfortunately, they're starting to pass. But there are, a lot of guys that are they're starting to kind of come up in the ranks. You got, I would say Seth Breedlove and Mark Madsky from Small Town Monsters, and you got Shannon LeGros is a great interviewer, and the things she does with Bigfoot. She's also on the Trail of Bigfoot documentary as well. And you've got Cliff and Bobo, and they're starting to get into the content creation now with their podcast. And don't be afraid to create content. Maybe make your own podcast or write your own book. Do research, create your own books. Just start doing something, or look up what are the weird, festivals or museums. I'll do a shout out for Iowa. Every fall, we have this awesome festival about the Van Meter Visitor, which is this flying, monster that was in the late 1800s and terrorized a town right outside of Des Moines. And now they have a festival, and that's kind of cool because you go to this festival and you start to get, learn the community, and then you go every year, get to know these guys and girls, and that's kind of how you get plugged in, right? I know a lot of people that are, with the Van Meter Visitor crowd. And, every year you go back and you're like, oh, hey, Steve, how's it going? And you never know where your connections will lead you. That's in life. That's the biggest advice you can take. The connections you make are what brings you far in life. It's not your degree. It's not, fill in the blank, but it's who you know and how you act on those connections. So remember, that's very important. All right, well, we went through 10 questions. Pretty awesome. And so we're going to take those 10 questions, and I'm going to be asking people down the road kind of those same things with, maybe a little bit extra questions added on. But that's what you will start to hear on this podcast. So, fantastic. I hope you enjoyed the interview that I had with myself. Just send me what's on your mind to do with the big guy in the woods, the big hairy guy named Sasquatch, and we'll get that ball rolling. Be a good time. Well, that's going to be it for this week. First interview down. Finally nailed down that elusive interview with myself. Next one, who knows? I got a few ideas I'm going to start contacting and see what we can come up with. But thanks for listening. And as always, remember, come over to @Bigfoot Society on Instagram. Join us there. Follow the feed. There's a lot of good stuff that goes on over there. Also, subscribe to this podcast. Like it. Rate it 5 stars. Rate it as high as you can. Give us a review. What you liked. Like it, review it. 5 stars, a thumbs up, everything that you could possibly do. And we're going to just, grow an awesome community that's already intensely massive on Instagram. I'll tell you that. But it keeps on going. So I know we had a catchphrase. Keep on Squatch-a-ruin. I don't think that's it, but the Squatch is out there. So we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good week. And who knows what the next week will bring. See ya.
If you'd like to hear extra episodes of Bigfoot Society, hear them before they're released to the public, and also ad-free, make sure you head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. There, I have a special tier opened up. It is $1 a month for you to be able to access that special audio content every month. This tier won't be open forever. It's pretty much the Bring Bigfoot Society to the Moon tier. Once we have filled a certain point, then that tier is closed forever. So do not miss out on this limited time way for you to get some amazing content for super cheap a month, and also for us at Bigfoot Society to get to where we want to go, which is full time. So check it out, patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. Help us get to where we're going to make even more great content for you focused on Bigfoot. And thanks for listening. Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.